Okay, Logan, we're going to go to another what used to be a sore spot that used to be painful for you to talk about. And even though guys like Dylan Gibbons and Caden Lyles are moving on, the transfer portal, Mike Norvell doing the job again. Jeremiah Byers is an exceptional guy to bring in. Casey Reddick as well from Colorado. So this is no longer um, the train wreck that it was for 5 or 6 years. The offensive line stepping up, getting the job done.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's really nice to be able to now, when we do our postseason rankings of positions, they're like now in the top five. I'm like, what are we doing here? This can't be right. Something's wrong. Switch it up, please. I don't know. But I will not complain anymore because it's also keeping your quarterback safe, like we were talking about. Jordan Travis having a healthy year. You want to know why? Florida State's offensive line. There you go. That's all. That's all you need to know. But yeah, like you said, the transfers coming in are definitely big. I think too, building the depth overall, that is good. And that's what Alex Atkins needed to do. You can bring in talent, but what about if guys go down and Florida State is hurting? Like what are you going to do there in that type of situation? Like you said, Dylan Gibbons being gone, a leader more than anything on and off the field. And I think as a leadership role, that's going to that will take a little bit of a hit, but you've got guys that have been in the system for a while. I'm looking at Maurice Smith to turn into being that big leader. He already was. He was a guy that's really hands-on on the field, and then he's going to direct you on getting classes done. You got to be at workouts at a certain time. Not saying that I've overheard a few conversations that he's had with some of the true freshmen during some of these camps, but he is very straightforward. He's going to set the bar, and you will not cross a line. And I like seeing that from a veteran and a guy that is your center on the offensive line. I like seeing that. He's the glue. And I think watching him, we'll see if he's put on a little bit of size too. But I know what I'm going to get out of Maurice Smith, and he's going to battle on Fabian Lovett and practice. And he's going to go against Robert Cooper. He's going to go against Florida State's best defensive line. And even though he's a little bit more undersized of a guy, he brings the strength, and I think that grows a lot of respect for some of these younger guys that have definitely the better abilities size-wise, but they got to get the mentality of Maurice Smith. So having him there is big, and like I said, too, you got to build depth because God knows who goes down, and that's what happened with Bless Harris last year where Florida State lost their tackle going into that LSU game. And so what do you do there? And you're able to work out a few things. Darius Washington's moved around quite a bit. He's played every friggin' position on the offensive line for Florida State, but guy that you can maneuver around and you can rely on for the most part. You lost, like I said, lost Bless Harris. You bring in Jason Turntine just for a year. He comes in, and the biggest thing that Alex Atkins told us was building consistency, and they were able to do that in the latter half of the season. He was able to be subbed in too at that Oklahoma game. Bless Harris should be a full go for this spring camp. And then, there's a lot of things to like in this offensive line. I think it's always great to talk about Roddick, Keandre Drones coming from Auburn, Jeremiah Byers, who I think maybe has the most talent in that room, like you were mentioning there earlier, Mark. And then you've also got Robert Scott Jr., who's it's getting to the point where it's one of these players where they feel like they've been here for so damn long. And, he had a lot of projections going into this spring and was supposed to, be one of, NFL draft. He could be drafted this last year. He's staying for another year. I think it's a smart idea for him. And, if you're Jordan Travis, you got to feel really good. And I think that too played a presence in him coming back for another year, Mark. I think they had to put a game plan together to not only be able to keep Jordan Travis with weapons like wide receivers. You got what you got in the running back room and out Tydo and Jaheim Bell, but also protection wise. And for Florida State and the university to put on a show for Jordan Travis this upcoming year and make that Heisman run and push that mark, they've got to have a good concrete offensive line. And I think experience is going to be another big thing. So this offensive line will be fun. I think there'll be some names, we can talk about some of the freshmen that I'm watching out for on, I was about to say Ontavious Woody, but he's going from offensive line to defensive tackle. But I like talking about guys that like to whoop some ass, but he's going over the defensive line. But you got guys like Quashawn Sapp to Daughtry Richardson, who I see little signs here and there that I like, and I'm like, okay, let's see what another spring does behind them and see what happens.
And it's also nice to know when that offensive line gets shored up that when you bring in a top 100 player, top 10 tackle like a Lucas Simmons, if there's
Yeah.
any way that he makes it on the field this year, it's just because he's so damn good that he's got to get on the field, as opposed to, oh, we got no other options. We got to force feed somebody who's not ready yet just because he's our best young offensive lineman.
Yeah, and names are now just sprawling out of my head because there's so many of them. But like you said, that's a big boy for how young he is, and more maybe talented, but definitely you see the size. But Alex Atkins was able to build that relationship, Mark, and keep him to stick with Florida State and come here. And then I missed one, Julian Armella, the one that I am extremely high on because I see that physical nature, a really good listener. He surprised me in a lot of different ways, but just listening. And Alex Atkins, it's a football coach. Like I said, we're not playing, and I know I love all my golf people or my tennis people. Shout out to them. But Alex Atkins is going to treat you in a certain way, and you've got to either nut up or get out, because it's not fun listening to what he'll say to you at your face and make you feel really, really bad. And I just really liked how Julian Armella would step into that. He wouldn't step back. He's a guy that was asking questions. I would spend, that's something, Mike Norvell will allow us to do, is go to these position groups. We'll stand right there and we'll listen. And I get to see what, the conversations they're having. That's Julian Armella will step up and ask these questions while he's getting roasted. But you just also see the signs where he's going against Jared Verse, which we're going to talk about that when we do our defensive preview. The different, he's pissing off Jared Verse. And when you're pissing off Jared Verse, you're doing a good thing. And I'm excited to see him. He's going through some recovery right now, Mark. So I want to see Julian Armella make that next step, because he was the backup to Robert Scott Jr. whenever he went down. And I don't think a lot of people were really seeing that, just because we see that in practice and you see them substituting. And then, in games, you're usually, you can use Darius Washington because he can be a guy that can substitute wherever. But Julian Armella, I'm ready for him to make that true step to where if Robert Scott Jr. goes down, or if he's able to battle, I don't know. I just want to see Julian Armella get in there. Legacy guy. Just, I don't know. A lot of, like I said, depth. I could go on for another 5 names, but we'd be here for 2 hours. But yeah, and I forgot to mention one name in the tight end room, Darrell Powers, real quick. Latter half of the year, I was talking about him quite a bit. Already bigger than Cam McDonald, big, not as big as Biscuit, Marquise and Douglas, but Darrell Powers. I think him, Rodney. If we're talking young players, Darrell Powers, Rodney Hill, Julian Armella. Those 3 I would keep a close eye on in spring camp, just off of what I've seen in the past and what it should translate into another year of camp. Those 3 should be guys that break out for us, Mark.
Love the personnel breakdown. I love these sessions. Feels like I got educated in about a half hour on Florida State football. Love it. Catch Logan Robinson's work, obviously, at Knoll Game Day. Also, the 2 different shows that you do here on YouTube. I want to make sure everybody catches up on those. So where's the best way to find those?
On Wednesday nights, we have our Hear the Spear show that we do every week. That's at 8:00. So this week, well, I know this will be recorded, but every week we'll be going through and previewing spring camp. So that's on Wednesdays. Hear the Spear. It's also on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. So Hear the Spear. We are on every podcast platform. So make sure you guys tune into that. We usually will have on guests. We had Jamie Robinson on a couple of weeks ago, and we're looking forward to hopefully having Cameron McDonald on next week with us, former Florida State tight end, like we were talking about earlier. So we got a lot of current / former Noles coaches. So we'll usually have on a ton of guests. And then we also have our show with Brian Stork, who I was mentioning earlier, 2013 national champion, 2013 Remington Award winner, Super Bowl champion with Tom Brady as being his center. That is going to be on Mondays. We kind of will select that when we want to go live, but probably every 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we'll go live on a Monday night, and we'll be going through some film that he'll be breaking down with us. And our next episode will be a 2013 rewind of that Clemson game in Death Valley, where Jameis Winston, Kellen Benjamin, that defense, Marcus Joyner, absolutely went off, and we're looking to bring on multiple teammates from that game too to join onto the broadcast. So that's Calculated Chaos. It's not a podcast, it's just a show on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and we're going to do that just a couple times throughout the offseason and get it really jumping during the season. So appreciate you always having me, Mark, on here to do these breakdowns. Looking forward to doing the defense.
2013 against Clemson, 51-14, if I remember that one correctly.
You are correct.
Yeah.
That one's hard, or not hard to forget, I would say. That one, that's one of the best ones that I remember being there too. That just to see that stadium silence that quickly after that interception that LaMarcus Joyner came down with. I mean, it sucked. And I think they were going for a Guinness World Record of loudest college football stadium. They were going to do the whole decibels, get to the certain mark, and that Florida State defense and Pruitt absolutely shut them the blank up.
No doubt. And with all that going on that Logan's got going on, he still makes it a point to see us on Wednesday night. So we get together every Wednesday at 6 Eastern. Logan, appreciate you. Appreciate the breakdown, man.
Yes, absolutely. Appreciate you always. And thanks everybody for watching.